aspirational hero. Move that move that aspirational, move that move that aspirational, move that move that move that move that aspirational, move that move that aspirational, move that move that aspirational goal. So the aspirational heroes need to be there. They need to be pure 100% from the beginning. They need to be at that unobtainable goal of perfection and good and hopeful and inspirational and all of that. Move that move that move that aspirational, move that move that move that aspirational, move that move that move that move that move that aspirational, move that aspirational. Stop deconstructing heroes. Aspirational or cathartic motivational. Move that move that move that move that aspirational, 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 move that move that move that to aspire. Hello everyone, I'm Professor Geek. Welcome back to the channel. And yeah, had to do the move that aspirational tonight. Been too long, right? Hope you guys are doing well. Let's see. You guys seem to like that. Good, glad the audio's working well. Video's going well. Thank you. Welcome, everybody. Looks like Darth Enigma was here first. Good to see you. Nathaniel's Lozball, Andre Hernandez. There's Ghost Planet Max Inc. Crystal Ashes. November is the month of Batman, it seems. I guess so. I don't know why. Well, it's just all because of Batman Resurrection came out. And it came out so late in the month of October that I was still doing October reading and October content. So I wanted to read it, so I jumped right into it right after Halloween. And then, yeah, it just got me into a Batman kick right now. So, welcome, Tom Spiegel. Electric Barbarella, good to see you. I need to email you, too. I love those pictures you sent. Those are really cool, the Halloween, the Halloween pictures of their house in action and everything. That was cool. Private Eye in Retrospectiva, Big Al Presents. Love that Brayfogle artwork. Yeah, on the thumbnail. That's, man, that's like peak Batman and Robin for me. You know, Tim Drake. Tim Drake's my favorite Robin. And that sounds kind of blasphemous to some people. Like, what do you mean Dick Grayson is Robin? I know, I love Dick Grayson. I love him as Robin. I really like him as Nightwing. Tim Drake, though, he just spoke to me so much because I followed that saga, you know, followed the death of Jason Todd's saga. And then what an amazing character. It was so meta, really, Tim Drake, to come in and recognize in the universe that Batman is a little too dark without Robin. And that's something that, man, people today could learn a lot from, because people today just want to make him darker. No, he's got to be the Punisher. He's an evil psycho vigilante who kills people. You know, you even know Batman, and that's not it. And I think it's wonderful for Tim Drake to be in the universe and realize that just as a civilian, and then to be a detective in his own right, you know, just a budding, you know, the child here to deduce. And it was a brilliant way he deduced that Bruce Wayne and Dick Grayson were Batman and Robin, because he had gone as a child to see the Flying Graysons, and he saw this acrobatic maneuver that only the Flying Graysons were able to do, like it was only their thing. And then he saw some news footage like on a hidden warehouse cam or something like that of a heist or whatever, and he saw Robin do the same flip, and he started saying, well, that would mean that Robin would be. And then he looked into it and saw that Bruce Wayne had, you know, adopted Dick Grayson afterwards and so forth. And still not a foolproof, you know, case, but a pretty good deduction. And so he goes to try to find Dick Grayson to try and convince him, hey, you need to go back to Batman. He needs Robin. He needs you. You know, he needs Nightwing, whatever. And of course, Nightwing, you know, doesn't want to do that. He's his own guy. And the story, you know, continues to develop. But obviously, in the end, Tim Drake himself becomes Robin. And it's just such a great story. I love the message of it. I love the self-awareness of it. And Tim Drake really just remained that type of character. Of course, they're gone psycho now. No, he's got to be bisexual, and he's got to be. And I hated everything they did with him after after New 52. That he was never Robin. Like, that's BS. That's garbage. Damian Wayne. As soon as Damian Wayne came on the scene, he just like killed the Batman mythos. Damian Wayne's the crappiest character anybody ever welcomed into to the universe. I hate that little snot. He only has ever worked in the original Super Sons comics. Anything outside of that, like, get him out of here. Horrible little character. But sorry, got me on a tangent. Who else is here? Imaginative hobbyist, Final Fantasy fan, Leia plus size, Samuel Proctor. You guys are talking about, why would I even remotely care about Wicked or Gladiator 2? I don't know anything about Gladiator 2, just that I'm not interested. So, yeah, I'm sure you guys are asking the questions sort of tongue in cheek too. Skyvart, good to see you there. Working on a card for your nephew's 10th birthday. Awesome. Thank you, Michael Skimbody, for the super chat right out the gate. Said, if Joker was gone, who would you like to see as Batman's arch nemesis? For me, it's either Penguin or Scarecrow. You love the Penguin series. Okay. Glad you liked it. Not for me. Those are two good picks. And we'll see, Batman, he's got such a great rogues gallery for the most part, because Batman's rogues gallery really does, each individual rogue really does reflect him in some way, and like mirror him, the path he could have taken, And Scarecrow, of course, uses fear like Batman uses fear, but not in the same way Batman uses fear, The Penguin has a similar childhood, but a dark reflection of it, the child of wealthy parents and whatnot, but the Cobblepots are obviously not anything like the Waynes were. I like Harvey Dent, Two-Face. Anarchy's another one. Right now, just without like fully thinking it through, I'm going to say Two-Face, because Two-Face, he's somebody who was an ally of Batman's, as Harvey Dent. And both Two-Face, both Harvey Dent and Bruce Wayne suffered great scarring trauma, literally in the case of Harvey Dent, obviously, but horrible scarring trauma that just like that's with them for the rest of their lives. And whereas Batman decided he was going to engage in positive activism and decide, okay, I've dealt with this horrible thing, I'm going to make sure that nobody else has to, and that's what I'm going to dedicate my life to. Harvey Dent does what so many of us end up falling into, this Harvey Dent Two-Face trap. Something bad happened to me. Screw it. Nothing means anything. If this can happen to me, then there's nothing. There's no meaning to anything. It's all random, and it's all, and there's no meaning to the world. And I mean, that's just like such a, it's a horrible thing that he does, but it's also kind of relatable too, Yeah, I would probably say Two-Face. That's best answer right off the bat to your question. Another super chat from you. Thank you again. You said, also, do you just think Joker is popular so people just consider him Batman's arch nemesis, or is he Batman's arch nemesis? I think the reason the Joker rose to the top, and this is long before even the Batman 89 movie. The Batman 89 movie had a big bearing on that, obviously, because Jack Nicholson as a Joker wasn't amazing. I mean, people, today in our post Heath Ledger and post stupid Joaquin Phoenix not Joker world, don't realize what an impact Jack Nicholson as the Joker had. I mean, Jack Nicholson is an epic actor, and it was almost kind of on the nose, him playing the Joker, and it was just perfect. I mean, he had a perfect, everybody loved him as the Joker. But even before that, the Joker really rose to the top in the comics, even on the Batman 66 series. And I think it's because visually, it's such a stunning visual. Let's just start there. There's more to it than that. But it's such a stunning visual. If you match Batman and the Joker, Batman visually, the distortion of Batman's features is the cowl, the ears, the cover, the mask that covers the top part of his head, and the cowl. But you look at the Joker, and the distortion of the Joker's face is the smile, the bottom side of the face. So it's a perfect representation of the Batman Apollonian and the Joker Dionysian right there. Order versus chaos. It's in the physical design of them right there. And then in stories that have the Joker really embrace that kind of chaos, anarchy aspect, that just mirrors that all the more. We're going to talk tonight a little bit how Batman, not a lot of people really understand what it means that he's so driven and strong-willed and self-controlled. We'll talk about that. See, I think there's a case to be made that he is sort of a natural arch nemesis, but he's certainly not the only one, and you never should be, focused on above the others, because there's some great villains out there for him. Skyvart said Ra's al Ghul would be yours. It's a good one, too. All right. So, I'm going to end up repeating a little bit tonight of some of the things I said last week. Bear with me, though. Last week, I was talking about how I've been reading the line of the Legend of the Dark Knight comics. And I decided, you know what, I might as well just, I mentioned reviews of, like, sort of mini reviews, talking a little bit about some of them last week. But I thought, let me just go through and really give a review for each one. I don't know how long each one will be. Some of them will be longer than others. I can probably put them all together in one video first. Now, all I'm going to talk about tonight are Batman Shaman, which is the first one, through the fourth one, Batman Venom. After that, there's a little bit of jump. If you're going to issue by issue in the chronology, there's a jump in the collected trade paperback versions. We have these three individual issue, two 3-issue runs individually. There's Faith by Mike W. Barr, and then Flyer by Howard Chaykin. So I haven't read these yet. I just got them in the mail today. So these are going to be the next things I read. After that, it's Batman Faces, which is a Two-Face character arc or story arc. So I'm going to talk about these in a second here. That's going to be the thing. Oh, thank you, Michael Scombati. Appreciate the $1.99 there from you. No comment attached, but always take a $1.99. You're asking if I like Batman Begins. There are good things in Batman Begins. I don't hate it, but it was missing a lot. And the stupid thing at the end of, I don't have to kill you. I just don't have to save you. No, bro, you killed him. You killed him. Batman killed him. If Batman leaves somebody on a train heading for death when he could have saved him, you killed him. Just stop playing semantics. So I thought that was dumb. I thought the complete and utter lack of any detective work was ridiculous. But at the time, I liked it because at the time I thought, and I always thought the Ra's al Ghul, not saving him thing was stupid. But even at the time, I thought, okay, well, this is just the beginning. They're going to, they set up the sequel. And I thought, okay, well, this is, he's going somewhere. He's building. Maybe we'll see more detective work in the next one. And even Chris Nolan himself, if you look at the interviews and stuff he said when Batman Begins came out, he was all about, guys, I'm really going for the comic accurate Batman here. I really want to do the comic accurate Batman. And that was the drum he was beating. As soon as it got popular, especially as soon as Batman Dark Knight happened, he threw all that out the window. He was able to do what he wanted then. He's like, no, this is my Batman universe. Batman exists in a universe where there are no other superheroes. I'm like, well, that's not the comic accurate Batman, is it, Chief? And it drove me crazy. People don't do it as much anymore, but people just worshipped the Nolan films. The shiny new penny. They're doing it right now with the stupid Robert Pattinson garbage Matt Weaver. Matt, what's his name? Batman. I got that wrong. Tom Spiegel, thank you so much. Said, I do like how Batman's enemies reflect different facets of his character. Like Spider-Man's. Yeah, I guess so. Spider-Man's another character that has some really great... I mean, as much as I love Superman, I'm the Superman. He's my guy. And he's got a great rose gallery himself, but they don't quite match up to the pitch perfect mirror imaging that Batman's do. I don't know why. But you say Mr. Freeze is the dark side of losing loved ones. You're right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we could go through them all. And it's been done, too. The psychology of Batman, there are books out, that really go through each and every one and do it quite well. I agree, Mark. Yeah, you got it. You almost got it and ditched it all by the third movie. I would say he even started ditching it a bit in the second movie by killing off Harvey Dent. That's one of the things that even as a child I didn't like about the Batman '89 movie. I was like, well, don't kill the Joker. He's supposed to be a villain that comes back, you know. So yeah. All right, so let me start and see how far I get with these. Uh I'm not it's not gonna spend a lot of time on them. I've talked a little bit about them, but I'll go a little bit more in depth with some of them. So the Legends of the Dark Knight run, as many of you know, was a line that was started, I think, in 1990, 90 or 91. I think it was 90 that they started it. And this was the first time that they had released a new line of Batman comics since forever. I mean, Batman had always existed in Batman and Detective Comics. Those are the two lines that Batman was published in as the sole, hero. Um, there had been things in the past where it had been canceled and came back and so forth, but those were the two lines that you had Batman from. So it was a big deal because of Batmania, Batman '89. They realized they could easily, sell a third line. So they greenlit Legends of the Dark Knight, and Denny O'Neil, one of the editors there at DC, was asked to go ahead and write a contributor arc. It ended up being the first arc, Batman Shaman. And this is amazing. This is my review system, basic top, most general level review system for these books are going to be, is it iconic Batman or is it not iconic Batman? Does it miss the boat? And that's just not what Batman's supposed to be. And that could be in the character or the story or whatever. This is absolutely iconic Batman, 100% Batman Shaman. It's a great book. It's an inspirational book. It really does feel, if you know Denny O'Neil's work, not just in Batman, but in other stories, it really does feel like it's Denny O'Neil almost writing in the Batman '89 universe almost. It's not. This doesn't take place in the Batman '89 universe or anything. But one of the foundations of the Legend of the Dark Knight run is that this is early Batman. Not necessarily year one, year two. They're not really hard, pressed going into all of that. I guess it's, this one's certainly year one because we see him literally come back to Gotham City after training and deciding that he wants to dress as a bat and so forth. And this does coincide a little bit with the Batman Year One comic, the one good Frank Miller Batman comic that exists. It even has a little scene of that. So it's in the DC continuity at the time. Denny O'Neil is a great writer anyway, and he plays with the theme of masks. Not just literally a mask, I mean, on that too, but also what does it mean to hide behind something? What does it mean what are the uses of a mask? They conceal, but what do they conceal? Does a mask conceal the evil of your identity that you're trying to hide? People wear a mask when they do nefarious things so that no one knows it's them doing it. Or does a mask conceal, or can it conceal something wonderful, something good that you need the mask to do? Now that's Batman, obviously, right? Batman wants to be a hero. He's not trying. He doesn't want to be a dark, shadowy, Gothic. That's just, it's because of where he lives. It's because of Gotham City and the nature of the crime where he needs to fight it that he takes on that mask of darkness. And because he's wanting to do the same work that Superman does, saving people. And Denny O'Neil gets that. He gets that beautifully. And this is just a wonderful story. It's a younger, slightly naiver Bruce here and there, but it's a really great exploration of him, becoming Batman. Lieutenant Gordon is just Commissioner Gordon is Captain Gordon at this point. He's been promoted to Captain Gordon. Again, it takes place, on the heels or after Batman Year One. So if you haven't read Batman Shaman, it's collected. It's the first 5 issues of the Legend of the Dark Knight run. If you don't have them in your long box somewhere, pick up Batman Shaman. Trade paperback. It's really good. Wonderful, wonderful art too. I love this kind of, I just love the paper it's printed on too. It just takes me back to that time. I'm trying to find some good scenes to show you with the art and everything. Really noirish shadows and all of that. Great stuff. Love that. That's just great. So recommend Batman Shaman. Next up I think it was the next one in terms of the issues and the trade paperbacks. The light in here is so bad I can't confirm that right now, but I'm pretty sure this became the next one. Grant Morrison's Gothic. As I said a little bit last time, I don't get the appeal of Grant Morrison. I really don't. I think at his best, he has some great ideas. All-Star Superman with some great ideas, but even in something that's only sometimes. Sometimes his ideas are garbage. Uh, but even when he's got his best ideas, he can't string them together in a coherent story. It's just, let's skip from this idea to that idea. Like, whoa, what about character development? What about plot pacing? What about making this work as a coherent narrative by the end? The audience will get that. They'll fill that in. It's just, I don't understand why people think he's such. I mean, I've heard people like tout him as one of the best comic book writers ever. Who? Grant Morrison? Have you read him? This is the character of Batman. I'll say this for it. The character of Batman is fine. You could say that the character of Batman is iconic. The story itself is not iconic Batman. It's just way too freaking dark. This was the 80s, right? Or 90s at this point. This was, by now, The Dark Knight Returns had firmly entrenched itself in the minds of all Batman writers, and they were trying to go dark, 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 even though that story was never supposed to be canon. Now, what he's trying to do, I'll say this, what he's trying to do is he's trying to take a Batman's comic book story arc and really write a traditionally Gothic tale out of it. So we talked about the Gothic on my channel this last October, and what a Gothic novel is, and really delved into all the definitions of that. And he really is trying to do that, and he deals with a lot of the tropes of it and everything. Right out the gate, though, he's way too freaking dark. I mean, a Batman book opens with this guy being tortured, and these people burn him to death and then tell him that his wife and daughter are sold into sex slavery. And then he dies. Batman never shows up to save him. No, this is just us introducing our villain. That's too dark. That's too dark. That's like Punisher level dark. That doesn't need, dark things can happen to people in a Batman story. I mean, the Joker does some horrible things to people. And Batman doesn't, he's not able to save every individual in Gotham City. No. But just, come on, that was just like gratuitous out the gate. He's trying to establish that this is really the depravity of that villain. No, you don't need to do that. You could have done it a million other ways. This was Grant Morrison just glorying in how dark he could get. And the thing about a Gothic novel is Gothic novels aren't all about the darkest, they're not snuff, pieces, for crying out loud. Then he introduces so many supernatural elements. Like there's a guy who made a deal with the devil, and the devil comes to collect. And the guy's trying to, get out of this deal with the devil he made. Now, those are great. I don't mind a story like that if it's done well. Does that fit into the Batman universe well? I mean, you have to be very careful when you start dealing with the devil and God and angels and like that in the DC and DC universe. It is done, okay? I'm not saying it's never been done. It's done in the Marvel and DC universes. But you can't just, you got to go with continuity. If suddenly Batman's dealing with supernatural things like that, well, Batman's not a supernatural hero, right? I mean, think about his villains. Even Ra's al Ghul has the Lazarus Pit. There's almost like a science fiction-y element to that. Even Solomon Grundy is more of a science fiction Frankenstein-like villain than straight up, rising from the grave zombie. I mean, some stories, push it like that and this and that, but it's just to go straight up, into the supernatural, not even hinted at, but just straight up supernatural, and it's so terribly dark. It's just not a fun read. If you were really into the Gothic novels and you just wanted to see how he did this, I mean, you could read it, whatever. To me, it's just saying it's by Grant Morrison is enough to explain it right there. Grant Morrison's just not it. I don't understand why in the world he gets so much love. I just don't understand that man. He took a dump all over Wonder Woman. He's the one that gave us Damian Brat Wayne. And he writes Batman just so oddly. He's another one of those like Alan Moore, we got to get as occultish as we can, kind of things. It doesn't work. It doesn't fit. But that's me. I agree. Gentle Savage, you put it wonderfully. It feels like Grant Morrison just writes whatever immediately comes into his head or whatever he sees in his drug trips. I know. And some editor okays it. Like, did you submit this to an editor at all, bro? I mean, his work, I do not get it. I'm glad you guys agree with me, because some people would just want to slit my throat for daring suggest that Grant Morrison is the greatest. Blah, blah, blah. And like I said, even the things that I would enjoy a reading, like the All-Star Superman, is only because I enjoy the Superman moments in it. It's a horribly written story, but the moments are great, Yeah, AL. He just wants to be edgy. This was that time for it too. Uh, Nathaniel Losewall, thank you for the super chat. Said, what would you say Scarface and the ventriloquist mirror? The failure to integrate the shadow. Oh, absolutely. I mean, that's a great way of putting it. All of the different ventriloquists. That's a mirror that's built into the character anyway, built into the Scarface dummy, no matter who wields him. But failure when you it's a failure to integrate the shadow, because when you ignore the shadow so much, it grows and becomes an outside, part of you. But it also takes on levels beyond your control anymore, right? And to the point where in the ventriloquist in Scarface's case, the little dummy really is like bullying and badgering the ventriloquist. It's all the ventriloquist, but it's his shadow run amok and is bullying him and forcing him around. So yeah, it's 100% the failure to harness your shadow. And that's such an important lesson for Batman, because people today who just want the darker, darker, darker Batman, and people who like, I have conversations with these idiots all the time, like, Batman should be insane. He's crazy. He's driven. He's so psycho. You don't know the character at all if that's what you think. That is not Batman at all. Never has been. That's your Punisher wet dream of what you think Batman should be. That's never the character. It's not him at all. And that would be him with a shadow out of control. Not true. He's not only comfortable when he's got the cowl on. We'll talk about that at all, more. Again, people just don't understand the character anymore these days. So that was the first two, Shaman and Gothic. Shaman, thumbs up. Gothic, thumbs down. The next one I talked about last time, so you already know what I think about it. Batman Prey by Doug Mensch. This is unbelievably iconic Batman. It's probably I'd missed this one back in the day, and I read it now, and it's probably one of my favorite Batman stories I've ever read. It's the introduction of Doctor Strange in this timeline here, and this is Batman. This is a writer who gets Batman, at least with this book. I haven't read all of his stuff. Strange is somebody who gets into the psychology of things, even more so than Dr. Crane, obviously. Strange is somebody, talking about the shadow, he hates Batman, but desperately wants to be Batman. And he's mad that Batman's better than him, that he can't be Batman, so he wants to take down Batman. And I said last time, I'll talk about just Prey first. I'll give a nod to Terror, which is the other run, which actually takes place a little farther along in the line of Legend of the Dark Knight, but it is still the same writer, and it's a continuation of the Strange story. So, as I said last time, there's a scene. Strange is just he's so twisted. Here he is. He's got a sex doll that he sits with, because the sex doll's like the audience, a captive audience, that and he gets mad because the sex doll has a smile on her face and like, stop laughing at me, and repeatedly, and has to like put masks on her and so forth. And it's twisted, but it's Doctor Strange perfectly from the comics. As I said last time, though, there's a moment in it where Strange, one of his machinations, really does wound Batman psychologically a bit. And Batman's trying to ignore it. He's like, no, I know what he's doing. I'm not going to let him get to me. I just need to focus on what I do. I need to focus on building up the trust of, because he's got Captain Gordon is 100% on his side, but he needs to get the trust of the city and get the trust of the police officers. So he's not always having to fight both the police and the criminals, right? He's not that he should ever be in the comics anyway. He shouldn't be like a duly deputized, agent of the law like in Batman 66 or anything. That was great for Batman 66, but not for the comics here. But there's a fine line in between. So he's trying to gain the trust of both the police force and the public in general, while combating, the evil that's going on in these criminals. The mayor's daughter is kidnapped at one point, and they want to put Captain Gordon in charge of an anti-vigilante task force, So a lot of cool things happen in it. But there's that one scene that I mentioned last time in which, and I won't give you the details because I won't want to ruin it for you if you read it yourself, but Batman's really, Strange finally gets to him in some way. And he says the cave, the darkness. He goes into the cave, and he tells Alfred, I'm not coming out. He says, it's too dark to read in here. I wish I could just read the text to you. But he says, I need the cave. I need to go back to where the dream began. I need that place to heal me. And that's in the cave, right? With the bats and everything like that, getting the idea to fulfill this promise he made to his parents at their deaths, via the mask of a bat. And he stays there until he's whole, and he comes out, and he's fine then, and he's able to go, continue fighting. And I talked last time about what a wonderful message that is. Because the world's always going to try and tear you down and try and whatever purpose or a thing that you find your identity in terms of nobility, when it's an altruistic thing, when you're really trying to, you've found your calling in the world, the world is going to be full of people who come around you and try to tear that down and say, no, you're not good enough for that. You shouldn't be doing that, blah, blah, blah. And you have to consistently go back to the place where where that dream was birthed, where that dream began. You got to keep going back to that place to draw from that initial fount of inspiration. And that could be prayer for somebody spiritual, but just even, artists and writers and people who are creative, and you've got a vision, you've got, inspiration that only you can give the world, no matter what your medium is. You got to keep going back to it. You got to keep going back to that place and renewing yourself with that mission, with that vision, with that art, to give that to the world, because only you can. You need to get good at it. You need to there's that great saying by Ira Plato, which is like, look, every artist, writer, whatever, you can apply it to anybody. He's talking about writers. Everything you write is going to be crap at first. And it's going to be crap for a long time. And you just need to accept that and be okay with it, that it's crap. And especially in today's world of self-publishers, you need, whoa, step back. What you're writing is crap. Give it a long time before you really get somewhere with it. But hold on, what you hold on to and what gets you through those beginning phases of learning and trying to stop writing crap is that only you have your own taste, your own unique vision of your art, of your stories, your own style, your own, unique thing that makes you that you put into your art. No one else can give that to the world. That's why it's so important that you work through the learning phase. You work through the phase of writing nothing but crap or drawing nothing but crap or whatever. You work through that. It's so important that you need to work through that to get to the skilled level, because only you can give what you can give to the world, So it's a great, I love moments like that when you can draw inspiration from the character and when he's written well. And that's really in here. Now, like I said, a lot of the newer collected editions also include a 5-issue story arc in the back of it called Terror. This takes place on down the line in the Legends of the Dark Knight run, but it is Doug Moench coming back to deal with Strange again. And Scarecrow shows up in that one. And again, it's another really good story. And the great moment from that one that makes it 100% iconic Batman is there's a scene in it where Batman realizes, I need to do more to help, the poor of the city. It's one thing that I'm out there stopping the criminals, but I need to do more as Bruce Wayne. And he tells Alfred, he says, we need to put a lot more money into the foundation. And Alfred thinks he's talking about the Batcave. He's like, the Batcave? Or what? And Wayne says, no, I mean the Wayne Foundation. I need to be doing a lot more to help the poor in this city. I need to be doing a lot more with all the wealth, with all of the great privileges I've been given. I need to do a lot more for people. And Alfred's like, oh, so we're going to be doing this now instead of the Batman thing, because this is still early on in the career. And Bruce Wayne says, no. He says, I am both Bruce Wayne and I am Batman. There are people that I can only help as Batman, and there are people that I can only help as Bruce Wayne. He says, I am both Bruce Wayne. Oh, what do you say? I am Bruce Wayne and I am Batman. And I am at my best when I realize that I am both. Yes. That right there. This is what so many writers don't understand about Batman. They just want to portray him as he hates being Bruce Wayne. He's only truly him when he puts on the mask and he can go crazy in the dark and blah, blah, blah. And Bruce Wayne's just an act. It's just an act that he has to do. I hate that. That's ridiculous. I mean, yeah, he has to play the playboy billionaire every now and then or whatever. Fine. But that's not the be-all and end-all of Bruce Wayne. That's what I loved about Michael Keaton's portrayal of Batman in the Burton films, was that he wasn't playing some psychotic, divided psyche individual. He was both fully Batman and both fully Bruce Wayne at all times. And sometimes you could see one kind of take control and come to the forefront more than the other, but he was fully Bruce Wayne and fully Batman, no matter whether he's wearing the cowl or not. And that's the real character. And this book gets it. So even Batman Terror, the sequel to Prey, is a great one. So pick up this one. This is a highly recommend. I would recommend you read this even probably more than Shaman, although I love Shaman. So we had Shaman. iconic Batman. Gothic, not even close. Um, Prey, definitely iconic Batman. Now, let me get to the last one I'm going to talk about tonight, which is Venom. We're returning to Denny O'Neil. And you guys had asked me about this last week. And I said, it's been so long since I read that. I mean, I know because if you're a Batman fan, this is such an important piece in the overall canon and continuity, especially once you start getting into Bane and whatnot, that you got to know sort of the gist of what goes on in Venom. And I knew that, but it had been so long since I read it. I didn't want to say much until I reread it because I don't think I read it since it came out back in the 90s, It is Denny O'Neil. So you should think, great, right? It's Denny O'Neil. Even Denny O'Neil can miss the boat sometimes. And I think he missed it here. I'll explain why. Denny O'Neil's a great writer. God rest his soul. But he made mistakes in his career, and he admitted to it, many of them. They're trying to take Wonder Woman's powers away for one and stuff. But he always really understood the characters, and just because he this exists, I don't think he doesn't understand Batman. But he made a misstep that's easy for a lot of readers to make. Now, I mean, the basic gist of the story is that Batman discovers that there are these designer drugs, this Venom drug that can really enhance his capabilities, his skills. And, Denny O'Neil does a good way of trying to prove that he would take it or something, or make it make sense in the story somehow. Batman's unable to save this child because he's not literally physically strong enough to lift this rock that was in the way and so forth. And so he decides to try and take this. But, and, then they're addictive, of course, and the people behind the drugs are, they've got nefarious purposes for why they want him to take it and so forth. I'll say this, that's just a... It's not a great premise for Batman. It's a fine premise for telling a moralistic story about drugs or steroid use or whatever, but it's not a great premise for Batman. I'll explain why. But first, let me say that that's not the whole 5-issue story arc doesn't stretch over him doing that. It's kind of like he comes to a pinnacle pretty soon, and that's over, and Batman gets over it and goes cold turkey in the cave for a while, but and then goes to fight it, and then goes to Santa Prisca to fight it and so forth. And that's a fun story, him fighting it. It gets really fun at that point. Him and Alfred, going to he's being the iconic Batman at that point. But here's why I say it's not an iconic Batman story. And this is something that I think a lot of writers and even, so-called Batman fans forget today. Somebody would try to defend this story by saying, look, what's wrong with that? Batman's not a superhero. He's not Superman. He doesn't have superpowers. It's a perfectly legitimate, a temptation for him to be tempted to take these and do this and blah, blah, blah. And he's human. And why wouldn't he? Again, that argument completely misunderstands Batman. No, Batman's not a superhero on level with Superman or Flash or somebody like that. But Batman's pretty superpowered in terms of his will, his drive, what drives him, his self-control. I mean, think about the training. First of all, the level of physical and mental capabilities that Bruce Wayne has trained himself to. You have to be, I mean, just let's peak. He's the highest specimen of humanity, right? Body and mind. To have that, and that's a stretch of belief anyway. But suspension of disbelief in the story, that's fine. But if you're going to imagine a character that is that self-controlled, that completely self-controlled, you're going to tell me the possibility of steroid use has never crossed his mind before until this moment in Batman Venom? Of course it has. This is a decision he's made long ago, whether or not he was going to use performance-enhancing drugs or not. And I get it, Venom's not just your average steroid, it's something a little bit more, but still, Batman is in control of himself. Batman's self-control is the one character trait that writers just want to throw out the window as soon as they get the character. And it's the same thing with Superman. It's the reason why people are like, oh, Superman's so hard to write because he's just so good. We want characters that screw their lives up like I've screwed my life up. Maybe just have some imagination and learn how to write a character that isn't exactly you all the time. That's Batman is so self-controlled. Doesn't mean he doesn't fail sometimes. Doesn't mean he doesn't have things to learn. Sure. but the notion that he would just go start taking some drugs, performance enhancing drugs, all of a sudden because of this bad horrible thing that happened is ridiculous. It's really stretches the premise of Batman. I do not like it. I can't get into the story. Like I said, it's fun afterwards when he's actually being Batman, and Denny O'Neil can write him being Batman, among the best of the writers. But this notion of the Venom, him taking it, is just no, not iconic Batman at all. I really don't think so. Um, I know it's tempting to do little things like that to try to develop the character psychologically or something. You know, like the beginning of Batman Beyond, when he's old Batman at that point, and Bruce Timm has him, you know, he's getting his butt kicked, and the killer drops a gun. So Batman, like in a mood of desperation because he needs to save this woman, grabs the gun and points it at him. Of course, doesn't fire it, and the guy runs away. But then he drops the gun and realizes, oh, I'm no longer capable of being Batman physically if I had to resort to picking up a gun. There are just certain lines you just don't cross. What's so hard about not crossing those lines? I don't understand it. But writers, you know, writers are like children. You know, you tell them not to do something. "Oh, how close can I get to that line? I don't know. Maybe respect the character so you stop asking that stupid question. You know, hate that. So that's my review of the first four Legends of the Dark Knight collected trade paperbacks. Shaman and Prey, man, you need to pick them up. They're among the best Batman stories ever written. So definitely with Prey. Uh, Gothic, I mean, if you're really interested in Gothic fiction, check it out if you want. Um, but Venom, I think it's important to know that Venom existed at some point before Bane, you know, obviously, for the Batman storyline, and Santa Prisco was a thing and all that kind of stuff. But I don't think it's true. um, yeah, this I forget the writer who said that first, but yeah, Batman is hyper sane, isn't as insane as the villains he fights, although they like to say that. Yeah, it's not a fascist. He's not an anti-hero. He's a hero. Amen. Amen, Final Fantasy fan. Truth. Uh, yeah, we might do the Hush comics or the Hush storyline at some point. The next thing I'm gonna do is like I said, these 3 issue story arcs, which will be interesting. I haven't read these yet, but Mike W. Barr, The Faith, and then Flyer by Chaykin. So those are the ones I'll do, and then we'll get into Faces. But I'll see how far I get this week. This is Thanksgiving week, so I don't know if I'll be able to read them all and really think about them all enough for a review or not. But we'll get to it. I agree, Darth Nimmer. Respecting characters has become a lost art these days. 100%. Um, yeah. I don't think I've read enough Prometheus, Gentle Savage. At least, not enough to be able to recall all of the pertinent details of him right off the bat in a live stream. I have encountered the character. I know the character, but I'd have to go back and um, refresh my memory a lot and probably look into it a little bit more deeply if I was going to give you a real assessment of it. The other thing I was going to, and we can still talk about Batman because actually the thing I was talking about stems from these stories, these Batman stories. It is, I got this story here, or this comment. Echol says, it seems O'Neill was trying to redo what he did with Roy Harper, which is the wrong thing to do with Batman. Yeah, well, I mean, O'Neill even talks about it in a preface to the book. He said this is an idea he had for a story that he tried to do a few different times in his career. He didn't mention doing it with Speedy, but he said he tried it in like a military comic at one time. He tried it in an earlier Batman comic with some different characters or whatever. Um, yeah, it's I think it's also a product of it being the time that it was written in. Um, everybody wanting the darker, darker, darker. Because even though we look back to things like Legend of the Dark Knight or Watchmen that came out in the '80s, it didn't really, we didn't see the full flourishing of the damage that those comics did until the '90s, right? When you got the Young Bloods and everything. I mean, thank goodness they gave us good stories like what's so funny about Truth, Justice, and the American Way. But that was the where it just got out of control. And there's nothing wrong with that kind of darkness in the stories that are suited for it. but trying to introduce that kind of level into the DC universe of all things, the iconic DC universe. And this was Dan DiDio's, um, personal psychological damage working out in the comics even before he was totally in charge of things, because that's what he grew up on, and he wants to push that into DC. Got this Guyvart channel member. Thank you there, sir. Said Professor Geek, when it comes to portraying Batman in a fight scene, what is a good balance where he isn't too brutal, where he beats the criminals to death, but also still needs to take them out? That's a good question, and here's the answer. Here is the answer. Ask any parent, if they're a healthy parent, should you discipline your children when you're angry? And the answer is no. Now, you can't always get around it. You're human, right? If your child has done something that requires discipline right in that moment, and you're kind of ticked off that they did it too, you can't always separate it. But the point is, you never discipline a child out of anger, because that's not you trying to teach them a lesson. That's you trying to vent your emotions or get even with them in some way. That's where child abuse comes in, I mean, ultimately, to push it all the way to that scale. And Batman with criminals, no, he's not their daddy. No, he's not their parent, but he's trying to stop the evil in the city. If you just go out there and brutalize criminals, that's not going to stop the evil. That only encourages the evil. It's just like the bully syndrome. If is bullied incessantly, they're more likely to go bully somebody else that is lower in the pecking order than them. And Batman's smart enough to know that. Doesn't mean he's not human. Doesn't mean he can't be enraged at somebody who would do something so horrible to another person. But he's not there to brutalize someone and get them back for doing that crime. No, he's there to stop the crime and to teach them a lesson. And that requires some violence, absolutely. Like in the Batman Arkham games. When you're playing there and you're in the middle of a combo and you hear, like, he'll grab somebody's wrist and break it. But you think about what's the context of that setting. It's Batman alone in that asylum, overrun with all of these horrible criminals. He needs to incapacitate them. And notice he doesn't brutalize them to a pulp where they're barely alive. No, he incapacitates them. I break this guy's wrist. He's not going to go cause any more trouble tonight. It's calculated. And Batman is he's an Apollonian hero. He's not a Dionysian psychopath that the people want him to be. It's ridiculous. So yeah, that's a good question. That's my answer to that. Hopefully that makes sense. Gentle Savage asking me if I'm a fan of Green Arrow. Yes, but not a huge fan. Like, I followed all of his arcs or anything like that. I like the character in team settings. I did follow Arrow, even though Arrow wasn't never, even from the beginning, wasn't really a Green Arrow from the comics. Arrow was them really wanting to do Batman, but they couldn't do Batman, so they did Oliver Queen with all the trappings of Oliver Queen, but tried to make it as Batman as they could. And even that was like a dark Batman. But it worked for what it was at the beginning. I thought it was a fine show at the beginning. Then, like all of that guy's show, what's the guy's, the showrunner? Can't think of his name. It just got to the point, especially in the 2000 teens, where he's like, everybody's gay, because he was gay and he just wanted everybody to be. It got utterly absurd. I stopped watching that whole universe after a while, but it started out pretty promising. I did like it, even though it wasn't comic accurate or anything. Greg Berlanti, thank you. That's it. Yeah, that's who I was talking about. So, reading these books, especially reading the Batman Prey and Batman Terror recently, and Thanksgiving's coming up, and I was trying to think, okay, well, what am I thankful for? Obviously, I'm personally thankful for a lot of things. I'm thankful for having the best wife ever in Sound Engraver. Thankful for having the sweetest daughter ever, my daughter Alyssa. But in terms of, the channel content, I talk about art and talk about stories. In my experience reading all of these Batman trade paperbacks this week, week or two, quite recently, quite closely together, I experienced the perfect high that you can experience when you read a solid piece of art that truly respects the character, gets them right, with Batman Prey or Batman Terror or Batman Shaman. They were just so wonderful and they inspired me. They're handling the character correctly in a way that inspires me, because Batman is an aspirational hero. He's an aspirational hero. He's different though than a Superman. Some people hear me say Batman's an aspirational hero and they immediately scoff. Ah, it's not. He's not a Superman. No, no, he's not an aspirational hero like Superman's an aspirational hero, because Superman is also a paragon. All right, so let me define my terms here. Aspirational versus cathartic motivational, those are the two basic divisions of heroes at the very general, very, very first surface level. But an aspirational hero is somebody that you look up to, that you want to aspire to be. Cathartic motivational heroes still inspire you, absolutely. Spider-Man inspires the heck out of people because they see their own moral failings in him, and yet they see him overcome those failings, and they want to do that too. But an aspirational hero works on a higher level, in terms of the aspiration, chart there, because they are a level that you could never reach yourself, but you want to, you wish you could. So you're going to try as hard as you can to reach that. And where Batman fulfills that is in his self-control, in him being so driven and so much self-discipline, and he has to have that to get to the point where he can be Batman. Now, a paragon is a sub-archetype that Superman embodies, which is where you are like a symbol in your universe for a standard. Captain America is a paragon in a lot of ways too, and Superman is that paragon archetype. Batman's not a paragon. Nobody in Gotham City, except for the people he saved, he certainly aspires, and they can look up to him as a symbol of safety and so forth. But Batman is still that, a shady figure to a lot of people, even law-abiding citizens in Gotham. But they know he's a hero. They know he does good and everything like that. But he's not a paragon, but he's still an aspirational hero. And when you write him correctly like that, it's immensely rewarding as a reader to read that. And people who like the Batman who kills and is dark and blah blah blah, they're not looking to be inspired. They're looking to be, what's the word? They're looking to be validated in their own lack of trying to be better. If all you look for in your stories and your heroes, if all you, not going to stories in general, you can look for stories for all different kinds of things, but if all you look for in your heroes or your hero stories is the validation that you're okay, look, the hero screwed up too, you're okay, then you're not looking for inspiration. You're not looking to be better. You're looking to just have an excuse not to try. And so I'm thankful for stories that really get it right, because especially I had the experiences of reading the other crap stories, and the ones that didn't get it right. I'm like, no, that's not Batman. And I think more people need to stop looking to new content, looking to the latest movies in the theaters, looking to the newest lines of comics coming off the rack. No, I refuse to believe that you've read every single thing out there, watched every single thing out there. You have not experienced every story in the over a century that we've had modern media. No, that's BS. Stop feeding the subpar Hollywood media, whatever machine that's giving us such subpar garbage. Stop feeding that and go back and start reading some of the amazing stuff we've had. Give them an incentive to get better, and the only incentive they get is by you turning away from them. I got a whole rant on this. I hate this nonsense thought that, guys, look, we need to give them an incentive to be better, so we have to reward it when they do good. Look, we want Disney to succeed. We want Rocksteady to succeed. We want them to succeed. No, we don't. They are so beyond hope at this point. They just need to burn, okay? They need to crash down to absolute rock bottom. That's where they need to go before they would truly change with any kind of permanence. Otherwise, it's just, oh, they threw me a bone. Okay, I gotta go. Now, the channels that make their bank by, bitching about woke Hollywood, they love this. They love this. They can pretend to be all level-minded and noble because we reward the things that are good, and we watch this and we give everything a chance, and they love that because they can keep making money off of it and keep sounding like they're doing the Lord's work. It's silly, but anyway. That's a little rant that could go on for a while, but I'm almost down to the end of my hour, so I won't go that far. So yeah, I'm thankful for good art that inspires, that really does get the characters right, that lets the archetypes, let the characters fulfill the. I'm thankful for art that lets, and by art I mean writing, art, whatever, filmmaking, whatever, that allows the character to fulfill the functions that they were intended to fulfill, or that the culture has embraced them to fulfill, and that's fulfilling their archetypes. And that's vital. And especially in today when so much crap is coming out, we need to go back and experience the stories when they did fulfill those functions, So yeah. Tanner Projects have been reading pre-crisis Batman. Oh, I love the pre-crisis era too. That's got its own wonderful, amazing charm. That's just like you can't beat that. I'm going back to these because of my nostalgia from the '89 universe, and I think a lot of great stuff came after Crisis too. But yeah, pre-crisis is amazing. Oh, I love that stuff too. I don't mean to like just talk about this at the expense of every other era by any means. Yeah. Guyvart wanted to know if I'm excited for Sonic 3. You know, I've never even read Sonic. I mean, I've never watched Sonic 2. I like Sonic 1, but I haven't. I need to see Sonic 2 before I can be excited about Sonic 3. I haven't looked into it or know anything about it, but why, thank you, my dear Sound Engraver. And yes, Sound Engraver is streaming tomorrow. Probably your usual time, 5:45. She put the stream in the chat there, and definitely tune into there. Gentle Savage wants to know what kind of archetype Martian Manhunter inhabits. I only really know Martian Manhunter in context of like the Justice League or his work with other heroes. I haven't really followed, and I know there hasn't been many. There's not like an ongoing Martian Manhunter title that's been out there forever or anything. But I haven't followed a lot of just the personal story arcs of him, but I know the gist of him. He is a detective. I mean, that's his secret identity anyway, right? He's a detective, as John Jones. He's also he can be a trickster, believe it or not, because a trickster is just somebody who blurs boundaries. They don't have to be laughing and be silly and, cracking jokes all the time. There's somebody who blurs boundaries. And as a shapeshifter, he's certainly blurring boundaries. He's one of those characters that's a little bit more malleable. It depends on the story you tell about him. But I'd say most often he's a detective, even slash mentor in a lot of ways. He's one of the elder members or the more members of the Justice League who has it together, if he's written well, and can be a strong foundation for a lot of other characters. Yeah. You see Neil Adams is expensive? Oh, Neil Adams art? I do have a Neil Adams Superman here somewhere. That's not where you can see it, but I think it's back there in the corner. But yeah, autographed. He's somebody who really, Neil Adams could draw Superman wonderfully. I didn't always like him writing Superman. That could be hit or miss. But yeah, Neil Adams, great comic, of course. Great artist, rather, comic artist. Yeah, Biscuit Butters. Yeah, Batman's the night, Superman's the day. Again, I point you back to that video. I'll have to find it, maybe put it in the comments, but I did a whole video about looking at that Steve Rude piece, that wonderful Steve Rude piece, which was a cover for The World's Finest. And it's Superman, with hands on his hips, and the sun's behind him and the doves are flying out and he's on a rooftop of Metropolis. And then right next to him in the same composition, it's nighttime and it's Batman hunched over a gargoyle and the bat signal's shining behind him. And I did an art analysis of that piece because it's the perfect statement about how these characters are two sides of the same coin. They're the same coin, but they are two different sides of it. One's the night, one's the day. One shines the light. One that is standing in the light for all to look to. The other is shining the light into the darkness. For all to remember that there is light. So yeah, well put there. All right, so I'm gonna wrap it up here. I'm at my hour mark, and had a good stream though. Got to talk about everything I want to talk about. I hope you guys have a great Thanksgiving. I hope you have some rest and relaxation. As a college teacher, you get the whole week of Thanksgiving off usually, which I do, which is so great. I think the plan is to go see Al on Monday, unless Al and Fanman decide they want to hang out virtually and do movies that day. But I don't know, I have to check in with them and see. But yeah, the plan is to go see Al on Monday. But yeah, having a blast, having a good week. Took Alyssa to a theme park the other night and had a great Christmas time there and everything. So she was good. Gonna have a nice weekend with my wife. But hope you guys have a great, happy Thanksgiving and restful time. Read some good material. Pick up some of these books if you're a Batman fan. But if you're not, read something good. Find something good and be inspired by it and get that. Let the characters fulfill that function they're intended to fulfill in you psychologically. But till next time, keep enjoying and digging deeper into the true blue hero stories you love. Thanks for watching.